Why Caitlin Clark's new look has the whole league talking. A photographer snaps one photo of Caitlin Clark standing on the sideline, not even playing, just cheering for her old college team. Within hours, that single image has millions of views. People aren't talking about the game. They're talking about her arms. Fans start joking that she spent the offseason in a different kind of gym than the one she grew up in. ESPN brings it up on live television. And Clark, when she finally answers the question herself, just laughs it off and blames the camera angle. But behind that joke is a much more serious story, one about a 23-year-old who got physically punished in her first year as a professional and made a decision that most rookies never have to make. Change your body or get pushed around for the rest of your career. That's the story we're telling today. To understand why that transformation mattered so much, you have to go back to where this all started. Caitlin Clark was born on January 22, 2002, in Des Moines, Iowa, and grew up just outside the city in West Des Moines. She's the middle of 3 kids, sandwiched between 2 brothers, and if you've ever had older or younger siblings, you already know what that does to a competitive streak. Her father Brent had played college basketball and baseball, and her grandfather had coached football, so sports were already woven into the family before Caitlin ever picked up a basketball. What made her different wasn't just talent. It was how badly she wanted to win, at everything, from driveway one-on-one games to family board games. She went to Dowling Catholic High School, and it didn't take long for people outside of Iowa to start noticing her. In February of 2019, during her junior season, she dropped 60 points in a single game, hitting 13 three-pointers along the way, a performance that still stands as one of the most memorable in Iowa high school basketball history. She kept climbing from there, finishing her prep career with over 2,500 points, multiple state scoring records, and just about every individual honor Iowa had to offer, including Miss Iowa Basketball and Gatorade Player of the Year. By the time she signed with the University of Iowa, the expectations were already enormous. She met almost every single one of them. Her freshman debut at Iowa in November of 2020 set the tone immediately. She dropped 27 points in her very first game. A few weeks later, she recorded her first career triple-double, and she did it on a night when her shot wasn't even falling, because instead of forcing bad looks, she simply started setting up her teammates. That single decision to adjust rather than panic ended up defining her whole college career. By the end of that freshman season, she had led the entire country in scoring, something no freshman in Division I history had ever done, man or woman. The following year, she somehow topped that, leading the nation in both scoring and assists at the same time, a combination almost nobody thought was possible at that level. Then came the tournament runs that turned her into a household name even outside of basketball circles. In 2023, she helped end a 30-year Final Four drought for Iowa, dropping back-to-back 41-point performances against Louisville and against an undefeated South Carolina team that hadn't lost in almost 3 years. Iowa came up short in the championship game against LSU, and you could see how much that loss hurt her. But instead of letting it define her, she used it as fuel heading into her senior year. In February of 2024, she passed Kelsey Plum to become the all-time leading scorer in NCAA women's basketball history. Weeks later, she passed Pete Maravich's record too, becoming the all-time leading scorer in Division I basketball, period, men's or women's. Tickets for that Ohio State game were selling for hundreds of dollars each. Fox built an entire broadcast experience just to track her every move on the court. She wasn't just playing basketball anymore. She was moving television ratings. On April 15, 2024, the Indiana Fever made her the #1 overall pick in the WNBA draft. Nobody was surprised by the selection, but almost nobody was prepared for the wave that followed. She pulled in more than 700,000 All-Star votes, the most in league history. Her jersey became the top seller in the WNBA almost overnight. Attendance for Fever games, home and away, spiked dramatically whenever she was on the floor. There's a reason people started calling it the Caitlin Clark effect. She hadn't played a single professional minute yet, and she was already reshaping the business of women's basketball. Then her rookie debut happened, and it was a reality check. On May 14, 2024, she scored 20 points, but she also turned the ball over 10 times, the most in any WNBA debut in league history. It wasn't nerves. It was a league that plays a completely different style of physical basketball than college does, full of veteran defenders who had spent years earning their spot and were not about to hand a rookie an easy welcome, no matter how much hype came with her. Just weeks into her career, she got knocked flat on the court by an off-ball hit from Chicago's Kennedy Carter. A play so aggressive the league upgraded the call to a flagrant foul after review. That moment became a symbol of everything her rookie year turned into. A talented young player getting tested, physically, every single night. The turnovers kept piling up as the season went on, and by the end of the year she had set the WNBA's all-time single-season turnover record, a number that critics loved pointing to. But context matters here. She was averaging more assists per game than almost anyone else in the league, handling the ball far more than any of her teammates, and facing double and triple teams designed specifically to make her uncomfortable. The turnovers were the price of usage, not a sign that she was overwhelmed. And the numbers on the other side of the ledger were staggering. She broke the WNBA's single-season assist record with 337 dimes. She had a 19-assist game against the Dallas Wings that set a new single-game league record. She became the first rookie in WNBA history to record a triple-double, then did it again just months later. By the time the season ended, she'd led all rookies in points, assists, steals, and minutes, and she captured the Rookie of the Year award with 66 of 67 possible votes. She'd taken a beating, literally, and still finished as one of the most productive players in the entire league. But she also missed time with injuries that year, something that had basically never happened to her before. Across her entire college career at Iowa, she never missed a game due to injury. One professional season in, her body was already sending her signals it hadn't sent before. And that's really where this transformation story begins. Not with vanity, not with wanting to look a certain way on camera. It began with a simple, uncomfortable realization. If she wanted to survive an 82-game grind against grown women who had been lifting weights and absorbing contact for a decade longer than she had, something had to change. So during the off-season that followed her rookie year, Clark went to work with Sarah Kessler, the Indiana Fever's head strength and performance coach, and together they built a program that had almost nothing to do with how she looked and everything to do with how she'd hold up under contact. The sessions were frequent, several days a week, and the focus was on things casual fans rarely think about, like single-leg strength work to help her explode off the floor more efficiently, and isometric holds designed to help her stay balanced instead of getting knocked off her feet the way she had been all season. Coaches had noticed she tended to play a little too upright, which made her easier to bump off her spot. So part of the training was simply teaching her body to play lower and stronger through contact. By the time the following season rolled around, the results were visible before she'd even played a game. In March of 2025, while cheering on her old Iowa teammates from the sideline during the Big Ten tournament, a photographer caught her mid-celebration, and the photo went viral almost instantly, racking up more than 3 million views. The caption joked that someone had clearly been spending time in the weight room, and fans ran with it, debating for days whether the definition in her arms was real muscle or just flattering lighting. A few weeks later, during an appearance on ESPN's Bird and Taurasi show, Clark was asked point-blank about the photo. She laughed and brushed it off, joking that it was just the camera angle and that AI was getting out of hand. It was a great soundbite, but when the questions kept coming, she got more direct about it, admitting that getting stronger had genuinely become her biggest focus that offseason, and that she'd actually come to enjoy the process of building that part of her game. That admission mattered because it reframed the whole story. This wasn't cosmetic. According to her own coaching staff, she'd added real weight to her frame, several pounds of added muscle between her rookie listing and her second season, enough that people around the league started noticing a genuine difference in how she absorbed contact and how much easier it became for her to hold her ground against defenders who had spent an entire rookie season trying to push her off her spots. Her head coach, Stephanie White, backed this up publicly, explaining that Clark had figured out early that she needed more strength and had thrown herself into the process, focusing not just on size but on things like staying low and controlling her center of gravity, the exact tools that help a smaller guard survive contact in a physical league. What's easy to miss in all the viral photo jokes and social media debates is just how deliberate this all was. Clark didn't show up to a photo shoot looking different by accident. She sat with her coaching staff after a brutal rookie year, looked honestly at what had gone wrong, physically, and built a plan to fix it. That's not the reaction of someone chasing attention. It's the reaction of a competitor who realized the league wasn't going to adjust to her, so she was going to have to adjust to the league. She'd been that way since she was a kid, fighting her way onto boys' basketball leagues because there wasn't always a girls' option available at her age. And she carried that same stubborn refusal to be outworked straight into professional basketball. There's also a bigger story happening around her that's worth mentioning. Because Clark didn't build this moment alone. The explosion in women's basketball's popularity over the last few years has been a team effort, built by an entire generation of incredible players, broadcasters who finally started giving the sport real airtime, and fans who showed up and demanded more coverage. Clark became the face of that wave, but the wave itself, bigger crowds, bigger television deals, more respect for the physicality and skill on display, belongs to the whole sport and everyone who's pushed it forward for years. Her rise just happened to coincide with, and dramatically accelerate, a moment the women's game had been building toward for a long time. Off the court, Clark has kept a relatively low profile personally, staying close with her longtime boyfriend Connor McCaffrey, a former Iowa basketball player turned coach, and leaning on her tight-knit family, especially her parents Brent and Ann, who've been fixtures at her games for years. She also started her own foundation in the fall of 2023, aimed at supporting food security and youth sports programs back home in Iowa, raising serious money for local causes before she'd even played a single professional game. It's a small detail that doesn't get nearly as much attention as her stat lines, but it says something about who she is away from the spotlight. So when people look at that viral photo from March of 2025 and joke about python arms or ask whether it's real or just an internet illusion, they're actually looking at the visible result of a much less glamorous process. An athlete who got physically tested in ways she'd never experienced before, took an honest look at what her body needed and put in the unglamorous